Hi everyone. Good evening. Gonna give it a couple minutes, let everybody jump in here. Hello, hello. All right, we got a few people in here now. Well, I wanted to talk today a little bit about. Recently, I did, as many of you have seen, I've started working on my writing again. Thank God. So I'm spending a little bit of time at it every night. Um, and recently on a post, I did something where I criticized one of the letters I did. I was showing off one letter and criticized another letter. And a person, said, "Hey, why are you, downing perfectly good letter forms? Why, it's discouraging to the new people writing." So, what I wanted to do is first explain that a little bit, and then I'm going to show you how I look at my letters and some tips that I use to analyze them and see if they're proper. So, the first thing is you're going to see with you follow all these wonderful, wonderful letterers, and I'm not one of them. Don't I'm not trying to put myself down, but I've lost it a little bit, so I'm regaining it. But yeah, like David. David's one of those you follow and you see him and you go. He says, "Hey, look at that. That's horrible." And as a new calligrapher or someone new to penmanship, you look at it and go, "Oh my God, I wish I could do that." Well, the thing is that by saying when you are wrong, um, thank you. When you're posting something online and lots of people are going to be looking at it, you need to be aware that there's going to be new calligraphers out there. There's going to be new people that are picking up the pen, and they're going to look at that as an example of what to do. And as someone responsibly posting in social media or online or what have you, you need to be aware that you need to point out when you're wrong. Because if not, then people will duplicate that mistake thinking that it's correct when it's actually not. So those of you that think that someone's getting down on themselves because they're they're saying bad things about the lettering they're doing, they're not necessarily just insulting themselves. They're trying to make you realize as well that, hey, this isn't correct. You know, so it's very important at that, and don't take that as discouraging, as something when you see a letter that you wish you could do as well as someone else. Don't take that as discouraging. Take that as they're looking very in depth at their letters to make sure that they're correct. And yeah, and it's your style too, but so it may be frustrating, but you got to think this all takes time. It takes time, and you need to be your own worst critic if you want to improve. So what I'm going to do is point out a couple very, very simple things. That's not the first time I've heard that Walter White thing. So I'm going to point out a couple things I do myself to see what I am doing on my lettering and see when it's bad or good. And it's a couple little tips and tricks I haven't seen very much of anywhere, but I'm going to go over it my way. So what I'm going to do is let me flip the camera. I've started some pencil marks. I'm not going to be, hi Nina, I'm not going to be doing it with ink because I need the lettering to be dry. So we're going to be doing it with pencil. Give me 1 second to get this camera flipped. I'm having issues again. 1 second, sorry. Okay, here we are. All right. So what I've done here is I'll show you first what the post referred to, and I did it very large. This is the H I did. And if you look at this H, I said, oh, that horrid H. What I did was I didn't start my swell up towards the top and go down. So even though the rest of it, I explained, thank you. So even though the rest of it may be pretty correct letter form, the swell is all wrong. And so when I said that's a horrid H, I just wanted to point out that that's not a good example to go by. It should be more more of a swell on it, and that's all it was. I may have overdid it by saying it was horrid, but that's the point I was making. So what I've done is written out a couple words here, and what I'm showing you is going to be, I'm going to show you slant and how to analyze that, and I'm going to show you counters, what counters are, and a couple different ways to look at your lettering. These are not good on purpose. I did it that way so you can see an example, and there's no shades or anything, so that's not relative to what I'm trying to show. The first thing I do is once my work is dry, I go back and I look through it upside down. Now, the reason I look through it upside down is now I am no longer looking at words. What I'm looking at is shapes and forms. And if you see, like for example right here I wrote man, that looks absolutely horrible that direction. This way it doesn't look awful because you're looking at the letters. Now when you critically look at it, it's awful. So first thing you do, take your writing, look at it upside down. You're no longer going to be looking at the words themselves. You're going to be looking at the shapes. You're going to be looking at the forms and everything else. So that's my first thing that I do. Okay? After I've done that, the next thing I do is I have a small ruler and colored pencils. Okay? And I do different colors for a reason. Okay, so I'm going to take red. And what I'm going to do is go along each word, and I'm going to draw a line along the slant of each part of each letter. So I'm going to do like that. I'm going to do like this. We're going to go through this. This will take me just a second, but I want you to see what I'm doing here. And what this is going to do, it's going to let you see and analyze which of your letter forms are off and why in slant. And this takes a little bit of time, but it's well worth the extra work. And like I said, you got to wait until you're dry here. Now, I just put all these lines on there. And because I've extended those out, you can now see, for example, how far off these two slants are from each other because the lines aren't all running parallel to each other. So that's my first trick. That helps a lot. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about counters. And a counter is a space right in here. This is called your counter space, okay? You have upper and lower counters. So I take one color and I go in, adjust the camera a little bit, and I'm not going to look through my phone because that's crazy, and I color in my counter areas with a different color. Now, by doing this, what I'm then doing is seeing if all my turns are correct. And again, this is something that takes a little bit of time, but it helps tremendously in self-analysis. Okay, so now we're going to look closely. Good morning. Like for example, look at this M. Look how big that blue color is and how small it is here. All of your counters, no matter the letter, should be the same size, the same shape. They should look identical. So now we've got that to look at in addition to the lines. And then I take another color and I color in my lower counters the same way. That's not one. Yeah, there's one there. An I is one, that is just crazy big. Okay, and I then have my lower counters. So now when I take this and I will again flip it upside down, so I'm positively not looking at all the letters, as I'm looking at all the sizes of my counters. Are they similar? I'm looking at all the lines. Are they parallel? If they're not, then you know what you need to work on. You know, maybe all your counters are the same on the lower end, so you know that's okay. Your upper counters may be all different sizes, so you need to spend more time working on that and analyzing it. You know, your all your letter slants should be the same. And of course, you should do this with guide sheets underneath when you're actually doing the lettering. I just did it quickly. And that applies, you know, not just to M, N, and U like I did there, but it applies to A's and your oval shapes. Okay, now I should have, that one's off. So I'm going to do it with this one. And the oval shapes. So now with an oval, you can look at all your counters on an oval should pretty much be the same if they were all the way around, even if it was a precisely even oval. And the counter on the oval should be the same size as the counter on your other letters, like an N and things like that. That is primarily how I look at beginning analysis. That was taught to me by my first teacher. I think it's tremendously helpful. It's a little bit time consuming to sit here and do all these lines, all these colors and everything, but it makes you see a lot of things that you can't normally see by just looking at the words, because when you're looking at words, you're reading. You're reading primarily, even though you're looking in detail at your letters and trying to, you're still reading the words. When you see this, you see the word man. When you see this, you see the word minimum. When you look at it like this, you don't see any words. All you're focusing on is every little detail in your letters. So that is my primary analysis. From there, you know, as your eye develops, you don't have to do this every time, but if you're having problems with a specific letter, you can always come back to this and do it again. I don't only do this occasionally. When I'm really digging into letters, I do this hard, especially when it's something new. I do this a lot. It's really slow, it's really cumbersome, but to me, it's really helpful. It may not be helpful to everybody, but that's the way I do it. And the way I look at letters is, you know, I look at it very critically. I'm very critical of myself, and I don't think that is a negative thing. Flip the camera again, if I can. I don't know why this camera doesn't flip. Ugh, so annoying. Well, I can't get it to flip. There we go. Okay. When I look at my letters, I'm very, very critical of myself, and I don't do that because I want to be hard on myself. I want to do the best that I can. You know, there's a couple different. I started 4 years ago. For the first couple years, I practiced a lot. I practiced 3 to 5 hours a night, every night for about 2 years. Yeah, that's how you correct the letter. What you're doing is you're looking at what you're doing wrong, and then you're going to go back and do it again and know to focus in on those points that you're having issues with. I have a little bit on Instagram. Primarily it's pins. I make pins and turn pins, so I don't post a whole lot of my penmanship. I just started again because I just started practicing. But now I don't practice that much, and for about, I don't know, a year and a half or so, almost 2 years, I kind of just practiced maybe once a week if I was lucky. So I do Spencerian and engrossers. That's the only two that I work on. So hopefully, you know, these tips and, you know, will help not only you better yourself, but also help you understand why, you know, those that you look at penmanship may be so hard on themselves. It's not because they're trying to make you feel bad. It's because A, they're trying to improve, and B, they're trying to provide guidance on what not to do. You know, there's nothing wrong with posting your work with errors in it and everything. Did you hear them sing? That's how they got good. Just be aware they're trying to be guiding and helping you by saying, hey, this is wrong, don't do it. So That's pretty much it. I just started, I do videos on YouTube for penmanship or pen making instruction, and then I just started adding all of my periscopes to YouTube as well. So I make pens for lefties, righties. I've made any kind of pen there is. So hopefully that helps. A couple more seconds. I'll take a couple more questions if you want, and then I'll let everybody go out and get their colored pencils and start filling in their lettering. Okay. Well, looks like that's it. So there it is. I'll post this one on YouTube as well, so it's up so you can see it again, but I'll also leave it up for the 24 hours. So everybody have a great evening, day, wherever you may be in the world, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.